G'day guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to take the 7-inch Roma frame and we're going to do a build. Generally with Roma you're only going to need two Allen keys, one is a 2mm and the other is a 3. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do of course is open the box. Take out all the stuff. We've got some straps. We have the mount for the air unit. We've got some plastic mounts including a GoPro unit mount for the top, sticker, another strap, whole bunch of bits in a bag. We'll keep that one here. These are the plastic pieces for the covers on the frame. We have one of the plates, the second one, they look pretty similar. We have the top plate, we have a set of legs and another set of legs, and we also have the instructions. Now in the instructions you would find they give you a layout of all the various screws and stuff that they put together and how it goes together to get the air unit fitted. What we're going to do to start off with is open all of these packets up and take the pieces out. And what we have is the GPS mount. We're going to be fitting a GPS on this unit. We have the pad that's a bit sticky to help the battery stay on. They actually have a separate GPS pad. I'm not sure why they've got two of these. One looks slightly larger than the other, although the inside dimension looks the same. You have the two spiky bits if you're going to use one of those aerials, tubes. Another small piece, which I'm not sure where that goes. And a whole stack of extra plastic pipes. The standoffs, one of the front sections, some screws, more screws, more screws. Interestingly, with this particular build, they always give you what's in the packet, which makes building a heck of a lot easier. 3x5s. These are interesting. These are two little plastic units. One's the old standard 30x30 and the other one is a 20x20. And what they used for is you can separate between your flight controller and your stack if you want to, by putting these in if you need to stick something on top and you don't particularly want it to interfere with the flight controller. You can use that. They give you some plastic nuts that are see-through, and of course you've got the where your wires go through on the actual arms of the unit in the packet there, and some more standoffs. They generally give you spares of everything, so it's a really well supplied kit. Now if you go to the actual book on it, it tells you, for example, I'm going to put that down there, that the first thing they expect you to build up is the front assembly. Then we move through to number 2, which is the base frame assembly. Open up the page, we go through to the next one, which is putting the front on with the covers. Number 3, sticky pads and everything on the top, and the unit is finished. I'm not going to follow it exactly. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start off with the base frame assembly, which is using this piece. And like I said, we have all got these captured nuts in them. The only difference is if you look at them, you'll see that they have different radiuses in the front. And so we've got to be careful, and of course that is different to what we see here. This is where the legs fit in. So the legs are going to come in inside here and effectively go through that hole and on that offset there, like that. And then each of the legs will fit into the build and look after each other one so that they don't fall off. So that is what's going to happen on the base. Let's just move that out the way and give you an idea. So that will go like that, and each of the legs supports the next one on the opposite side. And all of them ultimately will end up creating a cross in the center, and that way we end up with a complete quad. That is an X frame, but once we have the top plate on, as you can see, it becomes a reasonably long body onto which we can mount the stuff. So effectively this is how we start off, as we start getting this laid out. Then what happens is we have these aluminium pieces, which I'll take out of the bags. They come on the front of the unit, and they fit there and over there, and that is basically what holds our camera mounts. So we will get onto that shortly as well. Okay, so we've got the base plate down. We have the legs where they're going to be, and as you can see, they form a perfect square. Now from here, this actually goes on the top and goes all the way to the back, which we end up forming a frame like that. And what we need to do now is put 4 screws in here, and they are the M3 by 12. So take them out of the packet, and we should have 4 of those, and they've given us 5, which is fantastic. So they'll just go straight through there and straight through the leg like that, and it will screw down onto the piece at the bottom. Just make sure we got it straight before we start tightening anything up. M3, just got to line it up as to where it's going to be, about there. Doesn't have to be tight at the moment, it just needs to be in. Another one to go in that little hole there. A little bit rough with this light. Right, that one goes through there, and it too will end up into the base once we locate it. Okay, that's 2 of the legs on. Then the next one through this little unit there, straight through. Once again, it should line up pretty easily with the base assembly, which it does. And the last screw goes in through this little hole in the leg there. And we nip that up as well. Okie dokie. I'm going to tighten them all afterwards. I'm not going to tighten them now, I'm just nipping them up so that they're in a position where I can work with them. So as you can see, what we have now is basically the layout of the 7 frame. What's going to happen now is we have got the standoffs in the front going on and the back of it going on, and that will end up making the drone. So as you can see, that will be the ultimate length of the body of the drone with the standoffs. And the front pieces here protect the camera, so we'll put those on shortly. And then we're going to be getting more screws coming up from the underneath down here and going through these parts here, because what we're going to put on this one is a 30 by 30 stack, and so we have some long screws to go into that area. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to assemble the front pieces with the pieces of plastic, and basically what they do is they fit on here in a like that, to give it a bit of extra protection, and there's a little screw hole through there, and so you end up with that on the one, and you end up with this one on the opposite side like that. So you get those 2 little units going in together, and what will ultimately happen is they then screw onto here on the front. So what we start off with is we start off by getting these pieces of plastic into there, and you have a left hand and a right hand. Okay, so important that we get it right. We've got these tiny little 19mm units, and they're going to go in here as well, but we've also got to insert these 2, because these are our 2 camera mounts that go on the inside. So we end up with that going into there as well, into the actual drone, as we'll see shortly. M2 by 11s. And again, we only need 2, but they've given us 3, possibly because people throw them around or lose the darn things. We're going to put the spare one back in the bag. We only need 2 units. And we'll put that out the way. So what we have now, as I said, is we've got a little hole in the plastic that's got to go through there. Just thread it through or push it through. And then that goes into that little corner there, through that hole. And we then have this unit which is going to go on as well, and we've got a left and a right, so we need to make sure we get them correctly, otherwise we're not going to be able to see anything. So in general that will fit in there, and that one then lines up with the top here. So when it comes up against the top section of the quad, there is an undercut inside there, and that will then be fitting into the correct place, which gives us that effect like that. And it has a cutout on the edge, so that's going to hold and locate that unit like that. So what you do is you put that on, and then you screw this little standoff in there. Take the second one on the opposite side. Again, inside, outside, we need to match the one on the other side, so it's going to be like that. And we need to pick that one up and put a thread through there and screw through it. So let's push the screw through that one as well. And grab ourselves a 2mm Allen key this time. And thread it down over that piece. Sorry I can't show you what I'm doing here, guys. It's damn hard for me to even see what I'm doing myself, let alone show it off. Ending up with that assembly, and our camera is going to the middle. So that piece is ready to roll at this point in time, and that, as I say, is going to end up on the front of our drone. And we've got screws there, and that's going to screw down onto that area like that, up through from the bottom, and that'll give us our camera mount. Okay, we're going to now put some M3x16s in here just to make the frame a little bit more tighter. Again, they'll give you extra one, and these ones are going to come up from the bottom and go into the standoff. So what we need is we need these things, which I don't like fitting too early because it makes soldering more blinking difficult, but let's get 4 of those. Again, we've got 5, and they're going to go one there, one there, one there, and one there. And what that's also going to do is going to secure the legs of the drone better, and they're going to come up through the bottom, straight through the bottom. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just hand screw these on, and again, they're not going to go tight. I'm just putting them through so that they are there, because I'm probably going to remove them when I do the soldering of the board a bit later. But at this time, it's just going to be a nice hand assembly on these. Right, so we have our standoffs on the top. We're now going to also screw on this assembly, which is going to be for the air unit at the back, and that has a place which goes right to the back of the quad, and it has on the ends here, we have to put tiny little nuts in there and come up from underneath to actually get the air unit into there. And we then have on the back, we're going to have the other standoffs, which are these ones. Again, they give you 3, but you only need 2. So let's grab 2 out of this packet and show you where that's going to go, because that's going to make it just a bit easier to locate that back one. Right, M3x6s are what we're going to use to put that in. We need 2 of those to come up from underneath here through that particular little hole there. And we're going to screw those standoffs onto those. So that just fits on there. These are aluminium, so they screw down and go quite nicely. What is going to happen now is we're just going to take this little unit and press it down over those 2 standoffs all the way down to the bottom like that. So what it's doing is it's now holding the air unit very firmly inside there, and as I said, there's going to be 2 little nuts added in here, and as you can see, the standoffs are already in the way, but maybe with a pair of pliers we can get that sorted out. Okie dokie, what we've done is we put some lights on so we can see what we're doing, because I'm struggling a bit here, and I'm now going to fit these little M2s up from underneath and screw them into 2 of these little plastic screws. One of the things I don't like about Diatone is that they use M2. I think M2 is so much a complete problem. They're damn hard to work with and they're small, and you tend to lose stuff really bloody quickly. And in this particular instance, they have given me a packet short. In other words, they were supposed to have given me M2 by 6s, but what they did do was they gave me 2 packets of M3 by 5s, and luckily I am a person who always keeps spare parts, because they always have 3 in a packet, and from a previous build of another Diatone unit I've got the correct M2 units. Okay, finally we get them in. It's not simple, it's not as easy as it should be. And then what we're now going to do is we're now going to put these little M2s up through the base, which is through those tiny little holes over there. And we are going to hopefully thread them into the plastic on the other side. Use the Allen key to help you get it straight in. That way makes it simpler to just find little holes like these ones that are so darn tiny. Over there, stick it up through the unit. You can see there it is. Line that up, get it started in the thread, and away you go to the races. These are going to stay there, so I'm going to tighten them up because we can pull the backs off if we need to get the air unit in. Right, and that's it. So we've now got that piece done. Now from here, we now need to thread up through the base to give us our M30s. If you want to use the M20s, you've got M20 spots right there. And what they give us is they give us a packet of 30 long M3 by 30s. And the idea of these is to come up from the base. Again, we get 5. So you end up with another spare, which is excellent. So these are going to come up from underneath, from there, through that hole, and you're going to thread them all the way up. And we're going to tighten these all up now, seeing as we've got the base frame completed. Nice and firm. You don't want to over tighten anything. You want to tighten it that it's tight enough and it's holding what you're trying to hold. So just be gentle, there's no need to go crazy. Most of these have Loctite on them, and as such, once they're nipped up, they will stick, and that will be the end of that. They're not going to come loose. Alright, so we can now tighten the bases up as well into this, just up to the standoffs, just so that at least we're holding them together in our hands at the moment. And we can now tighten these sections down, which we didn't tighten down earlier. Now, as you can see, the top frame has got space for screws there, screws there, screws there to hold the front on. What we're going to do now is we're going to put that front piece on, which is this unit here. We're just going to tighten that up slightly because I don't want it moving around too much while I'm trying to do that job. Just makes it a little harder than it should be, so we'll just line them up and then just nip it up. As you can see, the plastic clips in those 2 areas like that. And what we now have is we have the front of the drone, which is going to go on here, and what we now need is 2 screws to do that job. M3 by 6, we need 2 screws. Now they're going to come up from underneath, which is the bottom of the frame, through there, and we're going to screw them into the base pieces which are there like that. So what we can do is we can turn it upside down, make it a little simpler, and show you what we're doing. Put the Allen key in there, line it up, and thread it into that hole. Take the next one, bend it a little bit because it's not exactly where it should be, line it up. Again, don't over tighten it, just tighten it up till it nips up nicely and then stop. Okay, so now we've got the front section on, and clearly what happens here is the camera will go between these two lips for us, like that and like that. And the top plate will go on shortly, like that. These are little fairings that go on the sides, and so they fit in here, and you have that one going to the front like that. And we have that one also going to the front shortly. Probably keep a bit of crud away from the prop, the engines and the flight controllers. Anyway, now this also has an aerial a place under here for an antenna, which means that your two antennas will stick out left and right. I'm going to use the air unit completely, so I don't need to do that. So all we do is we take these two units here and we press them down over those two inserts like that. That's as simple as that goes on. Don't need to do anything more than that at the moment. And from there, we've now got our standoffs where our flight stack, where that can fit over the top on a standard 30 by 30 like that. And build it all to the top. You've got the little grommets that come with the flight controllers to finish that off. And bear in mind they have a curve in them, and that has a curve in it. So the curved ones go to the bottom. And now we need to place our top plate on. And you want it with the diatone upwards so it looks nice. And we're now going to use the M6 bolts which go through there, which is the rest of the packet that we had. Okay, that's got that done. Let's just chuck these screws in here. Okay, so we had the frame completed like this, and as I showed you, these are the feet that go on it. There's also different mounts. Now this one is just slightly different to this one. This one has antennas that can come through the back. It's the same thing, basically the same GPS. It just gives you a place where you can put antennas. This little piece here goes on the top, and that's for the new 03 DJI Air unit, in that this thing is split and the antenna then just pushes into those little holes, and from there it then gets screwed down and you have one aerial coming up and one aerial going out the back. I'm using the old air unit, so it doesn't use that system at all. You get lots of straps with the machine as well. You get 4 straps, 2 big ones or long ones for 6S and 2 shorter ones for smaller batteries. The only thing that for me is a major problem is that the 4 holes in the mounting is a 16 by 16. What that means is you are pretty screwed with regard to what motor you can fit. You cannot fit the 28mm diameter units because they are on a 19 by 19 pattern, so they won't fit. So with the result, you're pretty stuck with which motors you can put on this unit. And the reason that has happened is because this frame is exactly the same as the standard 5-inch Roma. All they've done is change the length of the legs to put the propellers further out, but they didn't change the mounts. I did contact them and asked them if there was a 19 by 19 leg mount, and they said no, it's a 16 by 16 on all of their units. This is the GoPro mount that they send you as well, and how that fits is there's a slot here. This is a little bit raised and has a hole through it. That gets pushed back underneath the carbon, and you put a screw through there, and the 2 screws on the front screw it down, and your GoPro mount is on here. It's a solid piece of plastic as opposed to being a soft mount. I figured it would have been better to have been a soft mount, but it works okay because on my GoPro 10 I find that these mounts don't shake around too much, so it's not really an issue. They also give you the screw to go through here as well as the nut to go in here, and they also give you a mount in case you've got one of those action cameras that isn't a GoPro, and then stick that onto your camera with some epoxy and you end up with the pieces you need. When you finish basically putting this together, you're still going to have screws and things that don't actually have a home. Whole lots of those plastic units will go somewhere, but they give you a heap of bits and pieces, and so it's lots of extra stuff that you probably won't use. But it's better to have it than not to have it, or the old story is it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Guys, thanks for watching. There it is, the Roma 7-inch frame, ready for final building and ready to fly. Thank you for watching my channel. Please hit the like and subscribe if this was of any value to you. Thank you very much and have a great day. Cheers.